And good evening, everyone. ESS, Empire State Sports, proudly presents the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show. Your host tonight, Joey Reome, myself, Pete Goslaw, and our special guest is Kolby Perkins and Toby Reome, former St. Lawrence Central basketball players. And welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So I'm going to let you guys do a little bio yourself. Just so everybody gets to know a little bit about you, tell you what you've done in the past and what you're doing in college and moving forward. So who wants to start off? Either one of you, just go right out.
You want me to go first, Toby?
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right. Well, I played basketball, obviously, at SLC for Joey my whole life, basically since kindergarten, then 9th through 12th on varsity. And after I graduated this past year, I was a student assistant for Nazareth men's basketball and had a lot of cool opportunities. It was kind of like a practice squad too. I did a lot of practice. So it was a really cool experience. Got to expand, learn new things.
And I had basically the same upbringing as Kolby. And I now go to SUNY Cortland, and I'm one of the managers on the men's basketball team. I help run the practices. I set up everything for the team, like jerseys, water, like stats, film, all that stuff. And I get to travel with them to certain games and all that. It's been
cool.
A really cool experience this fall.
Good evening, David. Welcome to the show.
Hey there. How's it going, guys?
Good.
We just had Toby and Kolby do introductions. I got to figure out how to do this. I never had 5 on here before. There we go. That's a little better. So we're not going to get into anything yet that, would embarrass anybody. So we'll just keep that for a little later. But what was I going to say? I was going to say something. So both you boys were exceptional athletes in high school. Both moved on to colleges that were actually a lot bigger than you're used to, of course. It's definitely bigger than Potsdam State. But neither one of you really moved on playing ball. However, you found another avenue which basketball opened up. So, Kolby, if you could just tell us a little bit more about, some of the things you've done during the course of the season with the team, where you traveled to, any highlights, and then we'll move on to Toby and go from there.
Yeah, so I went in. I had met with the coach once before in the spring, and I think actually Joey may have met one of their assistants or something in Binghamton at one point, or like had some communication with him. And he knew I was coming in, and he knew I wanted to be a student assistant, but he urged me to try out too. So I tried out, and I gave it my best shot. They had graduated like 5 or 6 seniors the year before, and they brought in 7 freshmen besides me this year. So I knew going in, chances were slim of making the team, but I was still excited for the opportunity. And he offered me, he said he wanted me to stay as a student assistant after tryouts and still like fill in on practice and stuff too once in a while. So I got to do that. I spent a lot of time like on the pads and stuff in practice, bumping the guys around, working as passer, rebounding. And then that's when I wasn't practicing. And we got to travel. We're Empire 8 conference. So the farthest trip we made was probably Sage and Albany. But most of them are like Utica is the only really far one besides that. One really cool experience though was we played University of Buffalo Division I in an exhibition game. It counted for them, not for us. So we got to go out to Buffalo. I got to sit on the bench. It was on ESPN3. I got to see some big time athletes in person, and that was really cool. But I mean, it was really great experience this year.
Now, how do you like Nazareth? I've had family member that graduated from there. How do you love it?
I love it there. When I heard that we weren't going back, it hit hard, but the family around the basket, it reminds me a lot of high school. Like 90% of my friends at Nazareth are surrounded by the basketball team. So that's just, I love the like culture there.
So what are you majoring in Nazareth?
Physical therapy. They have a direct entry program. So as long as I maintain the requirements, I move on to grad school. I'm right into the program there. That's the biggest reason I picked Nazareth was their physical therapy program.
My brother is a physical therapist. He owns 2 sport medicine clinics in Boston. So it's a good field if you can get into it. And of course, now any aspirations since you're an assistant, like a student coach or whatever, any aspirations of becoming a coach someday?
Definitely. I mean, I got pretty close with a few of the assistant coaches this year. And I like all of them are, one's a high school teacher and one's a salesman or something for a company down there. And then on the side, they do this as an assistant job. And I think it's really cool. Like as a physical therapist, it may be hard to be a head coach, but I definitely want to stay with the game as long as possible.
That sounds great. It's nice to keep active, especially in a sport you love too.
Mm-hmm.
And with if going in the physical therapy route, that can, open you up to be like a trainer or, something like that.
Definitely. That was one of my connection with sports is one of the big reasons that pushed me to do physical therapy.
Nice.
So I'll give you a little secret that nobody probably knows. Dave might know this, but my brother, who was in Boston, actually went out to Cleveland in the Cleveland Hospital, which is very well renowned for medical and physical therapy, and had an interview to possibly be the team physical therapist for the Cleveland Cavaliers at the time that LeBron was on the team.
Ooh.
He did the interview and declined going out there. And he's probably better off for not going there anyway. I'm sure he would have loved it, but unfortunately, you have to look ahead, and he, now he has a family and stuff like that. So I'm sure that would have never took place. But like Dave said, you never know what's going to open up. There could be colleges that are looking for physical therapists, and then you can assist moving forward with the teams.
Definitely.
So Toby Reome, he takes himself off mute. Your dad does it all the time too, Toby, you're down to Cortland, Red Dragons, right? So yeah. So your major, Toby, is?
I'm sport management.
Okay. So what is well, you guys get a little, at least you're in the sports still. I love it. So what's your long-term goal, Toby?
So sport management can take you down a lot of different paths. You can go down like arena management. There's obviously like coaching. There's marketing. There's sales. There's all of that within the sports world. It's basically everything behind the curtain of the athletes. And I decided I actually want to go in the marketing route. And I haven't decided exactly like what I want to do in terms of an internship, because they send you on an internship sometime between your junior and senior year. And I haven't decided if I want to go to like maybe an NBA team or a specific team in general in any sport. Maybe I want to go to a specific company or even a league or something like that. But I definitely do want to go into marketing. Athletic director was my backup, but we had a couple visitors come in and like talk, either people that graduated from Cortland or just guest speakers in general. And a couple of them were athletic directors. And a lot of them said that, they'd been doing the job for 25, 30 years now in the same town, same job. And that's what got me into marketing is I don't want to be in the same place all the time. I'd like to be able to move around, explore new things. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, there might be a job in the future at St. Lawrence Central as athletic director. You never know. I could put a good word in for you with the Kurt one.
He's going to be there forever.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but anyway. But okay, so being a manager of the Cortland basketball, give us a little insight on that. I'm sure you have some interesting stories there, where you guys have traveled. This is your show. You tell us.
So basically, it's me and one other manager, and our job is to set everything up for practice. So we get there a little bit early. We set up the clock, the balls, the jerseys, the list that they have for like the teams going into the practice. I do the film while the other manager is on the bench with the like the water and the med kit and all that stuff. And during practices, we normally like just run the clock, do passing drills, rebounding, all that stuff. In terms of games, again, we'll go to games, like I'll do the stats or he'll do the stats. We just flip back and forth. It's actually a lot of fun though. Just the experience to hang out with all the guys. And I'd say Cortland's biggest game this year would have been going to Colgate. And that the game itself wasn't pretty. Colgate, you know, Big D wants to go. That was kind of, it wasn't embarrassing, but it was embarrassing. Like it wasn't embarrassing because they're a D1 school, but it was embarrassing because we lost by like 30 to 40 points. Like but other than that, it was just a really good season. I had a lot of fun with the guys.
Are you able to work or participate in the drills also, like Kolby does?
No, I don't do that. I mean, they've already got like 18 guys on rosters, so there's not much that they need me to do besides just rebound or pass or anything like that. The assistant coaches need me to do.
But both of you guys are having fun, it sounds like, and at least you're still keeping active in the sport that you guys love and are passionate about. That's for sure. Where do you see yourself? I mean, I know you said NBA. What if that? What was I'm trying to think of something. How about I'm trying to think of the word. No.
Fallback?
Huh?
Is it fallback?
Yeah, about fallback. Not scouts. Not an awful thing. I know this is very rare for me to be short for words, but you know how
General manager?
Do you mean
no
do you mean
guys
like
that
another
get paid,
job?
basically the guys that they go out and they set things up for the players and they get a cut. I can't remember what's the
An
name?
agent?
Agent. Is that possibly something that was brought up during? I'm glad you guys think about it. I'm brain dead. I really am brain dead. But is that something that was brought up during sports management also?
Oh yeah, that's also another avenue. Like there's just so many avenues that you can go with, but the sports agency, to become one of those, you need to go to law school, and that's a couple of years of schooling with, you know, it costs a little bit of money. And I'm not sure that I'd like to spend I don't even know how many more years it is, but it's just too many for me to get a job that I don't even want. Like to be an agent, it's not like, you know, LeBron's agent. He just kind of is a friend and said, hey, I'll take care of all your business on the side. Nowadays, you have to have all these, you have to have perfect like recommendations. You have to have a good background. You have to have really good connections and all that. And I mean, that's why marketing kind of would be the best outlet, because really for that, it's just connections. It's just straight up connections. You just need to have a good impression on people. You need to be outgoing and all that stuff.
Yeah, I really wasn't aware that you had to have a lawyer's background I would have thought somebody would have been doing that for me, but I can understand because they're going to get into the contracts and stuff like that, negotiations. So I guess that would be part of it. So I'm going to ask one more question from each one of you, and then I'm going to turn it over to the other guys, the host.
Geez, Pete.
I know I'm having a tough day. It's been a rough day. I need a Joey Reome story from each one of you. You knew this was coming sooner or later. Might as well get it halfway through. So there's got to be something out there on one of your trips, or down to Warrensburg when you guys went, or even on a personal level away from basketball. There's got to be something and I want dirt. I Nobody's gonna
I'm
watch
trying to
us,
think.
so don't worry about it. You know.
This may not be. This is kind of involves me too, but I mean, this probably the worst moment of my career. Joey might not even know where I'm going to this in Governor.
Governor.
God.
I was a sophomore, and it was a grind out game. Yeah, we were still in the lead by 3 with like 6-7 seconds left. They were inbounding at full court, and Joey told, I think it was Cole and Matt in the front court, we're going to foul them, make them make the 2 free throws. We aren't going to let them get a shot off for 3. Well, they inbound the ball. Neither Matt or Cole foul, and he gets to about half court with maybe 2 seconds left, and I go to foul, and right as soon as I fouled, he chucked it up. He made all 3 free throws, and I remember that one because like I tried doing what he said, and then I made a dumb. I don't know. It was just that for some reason that moment always sticks with me from playing with him because it was probably the lowest of. We ended up losing the game in overtime. I remember he was in a little bit of shock on that one because I don't usually do something like that, so it was.
That wasn't too bad.
Do you want my retort?
Yeah.
Because I find this funny because I remember that game, and Cole Meacham who was probably our worst outside shooter. We ran special, and special is a play that we run for Perk. We had the ball out of bounds underneath the basket in a tie ball game, and we ran a play that we run specifically for Perk, but it wasn't there, and Cole Meacham was wide open for a 3, but he's our worst outside shooter, and he makes it. And so we go up 3, and I'm thinking, holy cow, we're going to get out of this because we hate playing in Governor. Nobody likes playing there. We're going to get out of here with a win in a game that we didn't deserve to win. And then and it wasn't all Perk's fault because we didn't talk about what would happen if the ball got past the front line of the defense. So it was, just a crazy situation, and Perk got caught in a bad spot. I always look at it this way, Perk. We won the Class C championship that year. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's funny sometimes you remember the losses more than you remember the wins, you know?
Because I just remember after I did that, I remember turning to you because I'm just like, crap. I was waiting to see how you would react to that one because I never lived that one down for a while.
All right, Toby, you're on point.
Well, I've actually got a good story, but hey, Joey, there's about a squad and a half outside that was just yelling for you. I see Cash. I see Mr. Rose. Coach Bordelot. I see the Bordelot bus. There's a lot going on outside right now.
Well, hopefully your mom is telling them that we have a show right now because I don't have time to go see them. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she left, so they're just going to have to wait. All right, so
Invite them
Do you
in
want-
the bunker.
do you want a funny story or do you want just a
This is
story?
your show, man. You do whatever you want.
All right, so
Preferably something embarrassing.
oh man, now I got to think. All right, this one isn't necessarily about my dad, but he was there and he witnessed this. So you guys know who Cash is, right? You've seen Cash. He's a big fella. And we had a tournament, I'd say about 2 years ago at Paul Smith College, I think. And my dad and I decided to stay the night up in Lake Placid because, Joey loves Lake Placid. I don't know why, but anyways. We had to bring 2 of our players with us, Ben and Stephen Horner, and they were going to stay in the other bed. And then Cash and another player of ours, Caden, decided, hey, we're going to stay in your room too, because why not have 6 in a room with 2 beds? And so the bed reserved for Stephen and Ben, totally taken by Cash. They didn't even get a chance. And so that night when we go to bed, we're all in bed. My dad comes back around, 11:30, 12, like he does in Lake Placid. And all of us are basically asleep. And he tells us that, like, the next morning, Cash is completely spread eagle with Caden balled up right under his arm on that one bed. And to get to his bed, for Joey to get to his bed, he had to step over Ben and Steven sleeping on the floor. That was just a good weekend in general.
Those trips, you know, when I sit here and I think about all the fun, you know, the accomplishments that we did in high school, those Brazier Boy trips were the trips that I'll never forget those. And that story he tells about Cash, I laugh every time I think about that. There's a guy 340 pounds taking up the whole bed, and the little guy is sleeping on the side. At one point, he hollered out, "Cash, would you move the bleep over?" I could hear him holler that out during the middle of the night. So
I do have one more. I remember, I think it was my freshman year. This one involves more actions of Joey. We were playing Madrid. I think, wasn't that? Yeah, it was Madrid. Varsity was waiting on the side to go out. It was a tight game for the JV. And
I remember this.
Alex Bush, who graduated the year before me, went up to take a layup. This is, keep in mind, JV game, so Joey's at the end of the bench. Wasn't even his team. I just remember Alex going up and missing a wide open layup. And I look over at the bench, and Joey has a broken clipboard in his hand, and he snapped it over his knee during the JV game when over a missed layup. I remember then we proceeded to go get beat by probably 20 that game, but it was just wasn't a good night for SLC hoops that night.
Bushy still has that. I kept that broken clipboard, and I gave it to him at the banquet that year. It was more like a kung fu chop. He missed it. It was so wide open, and I can't remember. Toby, did you end up winning that game? Because you were still on JVs at that point.
I remember that. That was against Chateauguay. Because I remember
Chateauguay.
Yeah, we ended up losing because Bushy and not just Bushy, but everyone missed about 10 layups each, and Bushy especially missed about 20 wide open layups. And on about the 15th one was the one you snapped at. He missed a couple after.
I was a little passionate, but
Never seen that.
Good thing you calmed down.
So before we go any further, and I've let you guys go. My main thing for asking Pete and Dave, if this was okay, because I wasn't trying to get my son and one of my favorite players on the show as much as I wanted to get across to kids something that I've always preached to you guys, and I was so proud of you and what you did. And so many kids love a sport, and it doesn't need to be basketball, any of the sports. You could be a 3-sport athlete. I always try to tell the kids, if you're going to college and you've got the time and you love a sport, go talk to that coach of that sport. Maybe you won't play, but maybe you get a tryout. Maybe you can be the manager. Maybe you could be a student assistant coach, and keep your passion and your love of the game. And so that's why I've always been, I've been so proud of you two for doing that. You two were two good high school players, and you've kept yourselves involved in a game that you've loved for 13 years. I've been coaching these two since they were in kindergarten, so I know they love the game, and to find a way to keep that. And that was part of the reason I wanted these two guys to come on, so that if anybody's watching this tonight, maybe they'll realize, because I get so frustrated. I see a kid love the game as much as they do, and they don't bother to make an attempt to stay in that sport because they just think, well, I'm not good enough. Well, they won't need me, or it's going to require a conversation that maybe they don't want to have, or they're afraid to have. So these two guys put themselves out there and kept themselves involved, and now they're involved in two. Toby gets to be around a legendary coach who's coming on the show, and Coach Spanbauer. He's won over 400 games in the SUNYAC. And Perk was just telling me a story where he saw one of the best alumni of Nazareth is Coach Jeff Van Gundy, who's your NBA lead analyst now. and
Yep.
coached the Knicks back in the Michael Jordan days. So Perk has seen him a couple of times. So, the fact that they've kept that connection to basketball was really, really made me happy as their coach, and that they're staying involved. So that was the main reason I wanted to bring you guys on. It wasn't because of any other reason. I wanted to be able to get that chance. I'm hoping that a kid's going to see this and say, maybe this will be inspiring to them to try to stay in the sport they love, no matter what the sport is.
One of the other reasons that that I was looking forward to having you guys on as well, especially you, Toby, we've had several coaches that we've interviewed who have coached their sons or daughters, and I would find it interesting, I think, to get the perspective of the son of a coach. How, I mean, was it difficult to switch from dad to coach? And did you get backlash from, I know it's St. Lawrence Central, I went to Salmon River, small town, small school. So, but, you're only playing because you're the coach's son, or, the coach doesn't go hard on you because he's your dad, or do you find it just the opposite?
I definitely get the you only play because you're your coach's son, but then that just made me work kind of extra hard just to prove him wrong.
Good for you.
When it came to other sports, so I played baseball, football. I played just about everything at least once. When it came to having a different coach other than my dad, I didn't see it as any different. I probably got just the same amount of playing time, if you were to convert it from one sport to the other. But yeah, I didn't really feel much of a difference. It's not that what my dad did wasn't special. It's just that I feel like we had so many good coaches in this area that it was there wasn't really much of a difference for me, I guess.
Did you get some special critique from your dad? That maybe probably helped you. He was able to outside of the game and outside of practice. Then you got to go home with the guy, right?
Yeah, there was definitely some ride homes that taught me a few things. If he was silent, probably had a bad game. If he was talking, I probably had a good game, and I probably did some good things. But if he was talking with an angry tone, I definitely did something wrong, and I probably shouldn't do it again. But yeah, that's something that you don't get with a regular coach, is those ride homes where you get those talks about, the game and all that stuff.
Well, and go ahead, Pete.
For sure.
I was just gonna. It's one of the hardest things. It's one of the things I regret. But it's also it's. I always hear the stories. Don't talk about the game. How do you get in the car and talk about something else, especially when you're the coach? So you want it. That's the first thing a coach wants to do is talk about the game. And Toby probably was in a better spot during his high school career. It was probably those AAU games where we gotta get in the car and head to a hotel, or we gotta get to or we're heading home, and here we are. It's hard not to talk about the game. It's what a coach does. He wants to talk about the game, and I had a hard time separating the two. Not many bad spots though, because Perk will attest to there was a lot of days we got in the car and it was after they won 75% of the time, and if they didn't win, it was a ball game, and it wasn't very often that we were too disappointed getting into a car on the ride home. So, I remember though something that Bill Porter said in our last show, or one of our previous shows, is that if he had to do it all over again with Declan and Loudon, is just realize that it flies by in a hurry. And, the more you prep for the Brushton game and not realize that you've got a son or two sons around you, that time is going by. And he's so right. You get so focused on the season, you start to realize it's flying by, and I miss Perk and Toby every day. I miss all my kids every day. But Perk and Toby were a different group for me because I had them right from kindergarten. I say Kolby probably played 500 games, close to 500 games in his career. And I was probably around for 350 of them. He played modified without me, but, all his travel games, a lot of them were with me. So, you play that many games together. It's a bond. It's a bond that I didn't have with a lot of my players. It's a bond that we had before they even got to varsity. So it was different, but enjoyable. And I'd go back and do it again in a heartbeat. I know that.
So I got another question for you guys. I'll shoot out to each one of you, and I'm sure both of you have different answers. So I know you guys grew up together in the same teams, but there's got to be a team that you enjoyed the most being part of, and what was your best game that you guys have had? So each one of you can answer that, and so you got to dig in the old memory. So I just figured out who wants to go first in that one.
I know Toby's best game.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, our best individual games. We both had one amazing game, and it was in a loss. It was in an AAU game.
Going into our senior year. Going into our senior year.
We were playing against Mariah, and it was a 12th grade and under tournament, and at the time they hadn't graduated yet, so they still had, Dylan Trombley and all those seniors that, took them deep in the high school state playoffs. And I think Perk and I had at least 15 or 16 combined three-pointers that game. It was one of our most unreal games together. I don't even know what happened. I wish we had it on film, but
it was like running clock, and the final score was in the 80s in AAU game. It was just, I remember that was for AAU, that was definitely our best games individually.
You guys are in agreement that your best games were the same game that you played?
Maybe that might not have been my. If I were to
that
think,
wasn't my best game either, but
yeah, that game popped into my head too, because we both had great games that one. For me, it was again, it's because I don't like thinking of a good game as a loss. But this past season, the best I shot the ball. Well, I had 1 week. I can't remember if it was the same week or not, but I had a game. I think I had close to 30 against Ogdensburg, and we took them to overtime. And that one sticks out to me. I remember that game, and then we followed up, and I had in the 20s against Messina, and we won. So I just that week highlights to me, and I think we ended the week on a great team win against Brushton for Coaches versus Cancer. I just that 3-game stretch for me was probably the highlight, like my individual best games that I've had.
Yeah, mine was probably. It was probably that late junior year run where I had 31 in Potsdam, and then the next game I followed up with, I think, 17 or 20 in North Country, like one of the very next. It would have probably been 2 days after. And then I'm pretty sure our next game would have been Norwood. And I think that game I finished with like 7 blocks. That was probably like one of my best weeks of basketball ever. And I don't know, that junior year, that was just something different for me.
Was that one of the games up in North Country Community College?
You probably
Saranac game, yes.
Yeah,
you probably did that game.
I think Dave and I did that game, and you were shooting lights out that game.
Yeah.
Your grandfather was
Yep. I remember that.
Oh yeah. So I know, I remember that game. I'm sure Dave does too. I mean.
Oh yeah.
You had a hot hand that game. It's like, how come they're not feeding this kid more? So I don't know. I'm from the old school. If you got somebody with a hot hand, you keep feeding them. But it is what it is. What I loved about St. Lawrence is that it didn't matter who put the ball in the hole. It was a team effort. I've seen way too many teams individualized where you got 4 guys bringing down the ball and they got to get it to this guy. And that's it. And one of the things I loved about St. Lawrence, and I'll be honest with you, you guys are very close to my heart. I'm a Sam River kid, but St. Lawrence is definitely my second school. I've never been treated so good as I have there. But one thing I did notice is it's definitely team ball, and it's a big family there. So nobody is, even the guy on the bench is as important as the starter. And that's the way it should be. Everybody has a role. But I remember that game, Toby, and if I looked a little bit, I could probably find the scorebook. I know I got a box of them here somewhere. But I remember that game real well.
Yeah, that was actually a really fun game. That whole junior season was actually really fun. I remember I had like my first breakout game that season against Governor at home. Like everyone was just playing sloppy, and I had to. I don't want to say I had to put the team on my back, but I put the team on my back that game. And I don't know. That was. I don't want to say an embarrassing win, but I feel like any time we play Governor, I felt like we should have blown it out. That's no disrespect to Governor, but like you just look at the teams and you just look at the amount of skill on each team and the amount of work each team's put in. Like that's just the way it felt, and that's how it felt going into a lot of games for me. Like I knew what games we should have been pounding teams and what games should have been actual good games, and I kind of had a temper in some games, and that was mostly because if we didn't go in and destroy a team like I thought we should have, then I was probably a little mad. Like, just if things don't happen the way I think they should happen, that kind of bothers me. That kind of irks me a little bit. Like, I feel like we could have been doing more.
Do you guys feel that might have been your best season or best team also as your junior year? Kolby's shaking his head, doesn't know.
I don't know. I struggle to think what I was just thinking of that recently. Which year was our best overall team? And it's hard because I'd say my sophomore through senior year, all three of those teams were really solid. Sophomore, you mix in Cole Meacham, Jared Young, Shiloh Winters with our age group, and then junior year, it's hard to decide. Even senior year, we had such a good team. It's just crazy how one game can change it all.
Yeah, the sophomore year, I did a lot of games for you guys, and I think it was very exciting to watch that team. But I've done your games from Warrensburg too, and it seems like when you thought you didn't bring enough, what's the word I want? If you thought you were going to go up against the state's #1 team and you didn't think you had it in the tank, you found a way to bring it. Because every year you guys came up here, you played against teams you don't know about. They're all, to a certain extent, most of them were state ranked, and you guys did real well down here. So I'll be honest with you, I'm having a tough time figuring out what was your best season. Also, I did like the kids from your group there this year, senior year. You guys did have a good group of kids there, that's for sure.
I got to give credit. I always liked the class above me and below me. Toby and Joey will agree with this. They always brought what our group, for the most part, lacked. I mean, me, Toby, and Matt were all capable of scoring the ball. Ben was a great shooter, but the grade above me and below me brought the grit and like the hard work. They'll get out, lay out on the floor, get after it on defense, kind of style that those two groups really fit in well and complemented us really well. I mean, you saw that this year with that group of seniors that just played this year. I mean, my hats are off to them. Their hard work and everything just got them to a chance to win a section championship in the fourth quarter.
It was kind of odd not seeing you guys on the court this year. I'll be honest with you. I'm sure Joey felt the same way, but it was a different team because I've seen you guys for 3 straight years, and all of a sudden, well, they're not there. Who's going to fill the shoes? That's always the toughest part about high school. Who's going to step up and fill the shoes of those guys that are gone now? And a lot of those guys filled shoes this year. Another great team. So Joey, Dave, I'm going to turn over to you for a few minutes, I guess. I'm done enough talking.
Well, Kolby, Kolby and Toby have one of the reasons I love coaching them so much was that their basketball IQ is off the charts, and Kolby just said it perfectly right there. The groups, the classes that were ahead of them and behind them, the football players' mentality, they knew where the scoring was coming from. They were the supplements. And if there was a loose ball, Ethan LaRock was going to go get it. If we needed somebody to stop somebody, Alex Bush was going to stop them on defense. The way that they helped those guys out, I won't ever forget it. And Kolby's right. It's amazing how one loss can change your perspective. Because if we win the Class C championship a third year in a row, maybe we say that's the greatest. They had a legitimate chance. Pete, you and Dave did the game down in Lake George. Matthew had a chance to, Matthew came out of that weekend as one of the top players. I mean, he put himself on the map that weekend with a 27 and 36 point outing. But that was the great thing about that team. You didn't know Matthew could have a night like that, and then Kolby has his 27-point barrage against OFA, and we forced OFA to overtime, down 9 if I remember right, going into the fourth quarter. We came back and tied them, and this is OFA. They were capable of doing things that I've never seen, and what I loved about them, I always said this, it's probably it's a slight to them because I always would comment on their athleticism. They weren't that athletic, but I'll tell you what, their skills and their brains, I didn't have to do much other than it was so much fun just to be able to roll the ball out, get to work, guys, go get them. And I think Kolby and Toby will tell you some of the best things I'm going to remember. Number one is the legend that they made up, not just in high school, but the legend they made up in AAU of the Brazier Boys. When the Brazier Boys were in town, we're at a tournament. Oh God, we got to play cash. Oh God, somebody's got to guard that Berg kid. And Matt, if you don't, and you guys know from AAU experience, all 5 of us here, there's no scouting in AAU. There's no time to prepare. You don't know who you're going to get. So when you had to go play us with no preparation, you don't have a game plan to stop Matt Berg. And if he's hot, I feel sorry for you. And if you did try to stop him, I don't know how many times, boxing 1 on Matt. Well, now Kolby starts draining threes. Come out, triangle and 2 on Matt and Kolby. Now Toby starts draining threes. What are you going to do now? What's your next time out? They were that good. And I had so much fun. And the other thing they hadn't brought up yet is the years that we were together as the Brazier Boys in AAU ball and the other guys that came from other schools. And it took a special guy to come and play with these guys. And Colby McCarthy, Noah Steele, Hunter Swan, Brennan Harmer, Mishan Johnson, they all played with us at one point or other. And you have no idea how many other parents and other kids came up and asked to play with these guys. Hey, if you're ever shorthanded, because they would watch them. And it's like you said, Pete, how could you not enjoy playing with these guys? All they want to do is win, have fun, and share the ball. Sometimes Matthew might have chucked it up a little bit. Sometimes Kolby might have chucked it up a little bit. Toby settled for too many threes. That happens. Oh, yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, I'd never seen anything like them. They played the game the way their coach played and the way their coach taught it to them based on what they had to offer. And I'll always cherish those years together. It was something special. So, I miss them daily, but they left a legacy. And that team that we had this year, to think, just like Kolby said, that we had a shot in the fourth quarter to win the Class C championship with that group who struggled to score 50 points on most nights. But boy, did they play defense. Holy cow, did they play defense. So And they had winning ingrained in them from these guys. So it was just a good. They left a long tradition, and they got out of St. Lawrence Central. I know they got out on one of the toughest losses of all time, but at least they got out winning a couple, and a lot of memories and a lot of wins, and they love each other, and not, they had their fair share of arguments, but nothing that was detrimental to the team. Nothing that held us back. We never came out of a game going, boy, if you guys would have got along tonight, we would have won. That never was an issue. So,
Yeah, best friends have arguments. I'm best friends with Dave Bartlett. We've had our share of conversations. Let's just put it that way. So, as long as you can stay true, it all works out in the end. So, we're gonna wind down here, but I want to give you two guys, the last few minutes to tell us anything you want. And so, you guys pick who wants to go first. And
You got anything, Perk?
Well, I just thought it was one thing I noticed going to NAS, which I thought was really cool, is the way Joey taught the game to us. That translated for me perfectly into the way that they run things there. The coach at Nazareth he keeps it. I think he has a lot of different sets, but it's really similar to what we used to. Just there's rules and you follow the rules, and he's scoring against. I mean, we went 25-6, I think, this year, something like that, and he's doing that running basic dribble, handoff, pass the ball, move offense, and I thought it was really cool. I texted Joey that at one point that I think I really enjoyed participating in some of that and watching it, because it was almost like it was seeing college athletes do the things that Joey taught us in the high school level.
Toby?
Yeah, gotta think. Well, I'm gonna go on a completely different route than Perk. I just remember those AAU games, and even varsity games too. There was no isolation ball. There was no, hey, let's get back to a 2-3 zone at a young age. There was none of that. We went up, we played the same basketball for 6, 7, 8 years straight. It was always straight up man-to-man, move the ball till you get a good shot. And we'd always play these teams that would come up, get back to a 2-1-2, get back to a 3-2, 2-3, 2-1-2 press with a 3-2 backup. I don't know. You remember when Potsdam was running plays in the house league and they had 2 points at the end of the game? That's just, I watch other teams do that stuff, and that's just not how you play basketball. That's just not how you do it at an age like that. If you want to bring a team up and you want them to actually be successful, you have to let them learn the game on their own. You can't teach them literally everything. It's more about the time they put in themselves to work on themselves than you working on them for them. And yeah, that's all I gotta say.
well, I've made it, Pete and Dave. I've somehow made it through all these shows without getting emotional. And Toby and Perk will tell you they've seen me cry more than probably any coach they've ever been around. I love these two guys and what they just said. Perk, you made my day when you sent me that text. You don't know how you make a coach feel when you find out, Coach, I'm watching my college practice and it's not much different than being at my high school practice. I can't think of a bigger compliment than that, to know that Coach Bordelot and I and our staff are doing things that people are doing in college. So, and Toby, you're right. If that's the way you think, then we did it the right way, because nothing burned me more than watching somebody holler out play number 3 in a 5th and 6th grade game, and Toby would just sit there, or Kolby and Matt. Well, guess what? They figured out your play number 3 because you ran it 18 times. They know where the pass is going. Coach would come over and go, "Hey, Coach, you got any tips on what are you running for an offense? What is it? Could you show it to me sometime?" Well, yeah, it's just called pass, cut, and move. It kills me when I see that kind of organization. I'm like, you got to teach them how to play first, and that was always my thing with Toby and Kolby and Matt and Cash and that group. It was, if you stood still after making a pass, that was when we'd have a chat. But if you cut or screen, we had no issues. You're playing basketball. That's how you play ball. And then it makes it a lot easier to learn plays later when you know how to play. So basketball IQ is important. These two guys supplied a lot of it for me, and they supplied a lot of great memories. And Pete, Dave, I can't thank you enough for having them on. I know I talked to you 3 or 4 different times. You didn't have to do this. But it really, my main reason was I wanted to sell the fact that kids that love a sport, you can find a way to stay involved in it somehow, some way. If you apply yourself, you can find a way. And I couldn't be prouder of Kolby and Toby. And I hope this thing gets over with so that they can get back to these places, because they both love them dearly. And frankly, I'm sick of seeing Toby. I've seen him enough. So I'd like him to get the hell out of the house again. So, I can't thank you guys enough for letting them come on, and for our viewers out there that are going, yeah, coach, yeah, this is what he wanted. He got his son on the show. No, that wasn't my intent. These are my 2 players, and I thank Pete and Dave for allowing them to come on and tell a little bit about what you can do if you apply yourself. You can still find an avenue to keep the love of your sport with you. So
I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this show, and it really was an absolute honor to talk to you guys and to listen to your stories. I haven't followed your career real close, but I've been around and seen you guys play. So this was great, and I'm really glad, like Joe says, that you're continuing to stay active in the sport. That's great.
Well, I want to thank you guys also for coming on. It's been fun, and like Dave and Joey, I was looking forward to this night because there's really no pressure with you guys, because I've known you for so many years, and I knew what we were talking about. Unlike Tuesday night that's coming up, we have our next interview. I'll be under a little pressure because I'm going to be interviewing an idol of mine since I was a wee one, and that'd be Jerry Welch. So I cannot wait to get with that one. But I guess it's time to say goodnight here.
One more thing, just real quick.
Absolutely.
Just a real small bit of advice for Toby. Keep your line straight.
What was that?
Keep your line straight. Make sure you keep your line straight.
Okay. Well, when you got the 80-degree sun beating down on you for 4 hours straight, you can get a little crooked. Hey, cut me some slack.
The golf thing. All right, good. All right, guys.
My lines are straight. I may have a little more experience. So.
Yeah, you might.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. For Joey Reome, Dave Bartlett, our special guests, Kolby Perkins and Toby Reome, this is Pete Gosla signing off here on ESS Empire State Sports and the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show. Stay safe, everybody, and have a good night.